Hello, and welcome to our session on Major Exploration. My name is Lisa Hutton, and I'm the Director of Major Exploration here at the U. That title sounds fancy, but at heart, I'm an academic advisor with the Academic Advising Center. You're probably listening to this because you're unsure of what you'd like to major in, right? That's great. You're in the right place, and we're here to help. You should know that your first year at the U is the perfect time to explore. We're going to walk you through the process of what major exploration looks like at the University of Utah. Let's talk about the ways that you can explore options at the U of U. It's easy to feel like classes are the only way to find things out, but we have a lot of other things to include on the list. First, there's housing. If you're planning to live on campus, did you look into or apply to a living learning community? If not, that's okay. You're still going to meet a ton of other students and learn a lot from your interactions. For those of you in a living learning community, you'll be housed on a floor with a lot of other students who selected similar interests to you and who might be looking for something to academically match those interests, the same way you are now. There are also learning communities. Two that you might have already heard of are Block U and LEAP. We talk about these programs a lot with first-year students because they're a great way to have at least one class in both fall and spring where you stay with the same group of classmates, called a cohort. Both Block U and LEAP are organized around a theme of interest as well, and can be a great way to learn about related major or minor options. Next, we have general education and other classes. Wait, you might be thinking, what does Gen Ed have to do with finding a major? Everyone has to do Gen Ed. That's true. Everyone has to fulfill Gen Ed. But the cool thing is that Gen Ed can be fulfilled with intention. You can choose a class that is part of a major you're considering and also a Gen Ed option. And if you don't choose that major, you've still fulfilled the Gen Ed. You can also use it as a way to find the most fun, interesting class possible. Many of my students have loved Geology 1000, Earth Science in the Cinema. This class explores all the ways that Hollywood has showed science correctly and the times it's been really, really wrong, and why. It might just be a really cool class, or it might turn out you like geology and geophysics a lot more than you thought you would. It's also important to remember that your major is only part of your degree. You'll need to fulfill some elective credits too, so trying out classes purely for the sake of education and enjoyment is always encouraged. At the very least, you will diversify your education, and you may even determine a path from that elective experience. Another way to get involved and learn about options is through clubs and events. There are always events going on at the U. I've heard there's even an app to help you find the events with free food on campus daily. Everyone loves some free food. And on top of the free pizza, these events are generally designed to connect students with campus resources and academic departments in order to help broaden your knowledge of the campus community. It's a win-win. As for clubs, they're a great way to meet like-minded students, make friends, and learn from your peers. They can also evolve into excellent leadership experiences, and they don't have to be academically related, although some of them are. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but just to summarize, in university, housing, learning communities, general education and classes, and clubs and events are just some of the ways you can explore. Let's go back for a minute. What was exploring academics like in high school? Did you feel like you were able to explore all your interests? Think of something you wanted to study in high school, but your high school just didn't offer it. Okay, whatever you were thinking of, chances are the U of U has that subject or something similar. There are a gelada options at university compared to high school. It's like high school was just Neapolitan, those solid flavors of chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. But university is like going to a gelato shop with a ton of new flavors you haven't encountered before. Who knew basil was a flavor choice? And who knew it was good? So carrying on with this analogy, does it make sense to choose your major, or your ice cream, off of the first thing you try? You know, it works for some people. Some people truly love a good plain strawberry, and they don't ever want to try anything else. But most of us are all about those samples, am I right? They give you that little baby spoon, and you can try a little of any flavor. You're probably not going to try every single one. If you know you hate licorice, then anise gelato probably isn't on your list. But you usually try a little bit of any that might appeal to you. That's the gen ed and elective classes part of this story. Try out one class. If you like it, you can continue with it. If you don't, you can try a little of the next. Then there are flavor combinations. You know, when you're like, man, that one was so good, but so was that one? University is that way too. We like to think of complementary flavor combinations, and they're not always what you'd expect. Sticky rice gelato and mango sorbetto create a delicious, creamy version of a classic Thai dessert. Academically, what if you combined something like parks, recreation, and tourism with a fine arts degree in film? At first, they seem totally different, but then you think of all the documentaries and nature movies made, and this combo sounds less random and more like free solo. Or let's go even farther apart, linguistics and computer science. Two completely different colleges, humanities and engineering. What could they have in common? Well, who do you think created Siri, Alexa, and Hey Google? A computational linguist. Computer language processing is highly in demand, and it's a really cool way to exercise your human and your tech interests. In this case, there's actually a certificate for it that was just recently created, so you could even add that to another different major instead. Our point is that college is the time to explore, try new things, and find what fits. So, with all that in mind, how many majors do you think the university has? Yep, there are really over 100 majors at the U of U, over 110 minors, and over 20 certificates. It's a lot. And there are some preconceived notions about what it means to have a major and which one you should have. Let's talk about that for a minute. Here's a really common statement we advisors hear versions of. Most students enter college decided about their major. You'll have already seen this if you've completed the Orientation Canvas course and watched the Your Degree Pathway presentation. The answer is, it's not as many students as you think. Just remember, even once you decide, you can still be exploring. Remember those baby spoons at the gelato shop. Just because you choose a major doesn't mean you can't combine it with a minor, certificate, or just take more baby spoon exploratory classes. This is another very common belief. My major is going to lead to my career. This was also mentioned in Your Degree Pathway, but we have a news story for you. If you look at that graphic below, you see a Japanese BA leading to a career as a translator. A lot of language students do ask about becoming a translator, but one of our recent Japanese grads pursued an internship in his senior year with Northwestern Mutual, and he was hired as a financial advisor after graduation. That role led him to a job with Wells Fargo, which led him to where he is now, working on the educational side of Goldman Sachs. Not exactly the trajectory you would have imagined for a Japanese degree, right? In essence, your major might be related to your career, but it's only one line on your eventual resume, and there are so many things you can do to explore, like job shadowing or internships, that will help determine your eventual path. In short, choosing a major does not limit you to one career, and choosing a career does not limit you to one major. Business is one of our most popular majors at the U, and at most universities around the country. It's probably because most CEOs or other business leaders majored in business, right? Actually, they majored in all kinds of things. We'll start with the top left photo. This is Rosalind Brewer, Chief Operating Officer of Starbucks. What would a coffee company executive major in if not business? In this case, it's chemistry. Let's look at the photo right below her. This is Danielle Lee, the Global Vice President of Spotify, your favorite music streaming app. She majored in not music, not web design, political science. Next to her is Ed Catmull. He is the former president of Walt Disney and Pixar, and he's one of the U of U's most accomplished graduates. His undergraduate majors were physics and computer science. At the top right is Jen Wong. She's the Chief Operating Officer of Reddit, and her undergrad was applied mathematics. Our last photo, the middle on the right, is my personal favorite. This is Whitney Wolf. She's the co-founder and founder of an app you've either used yourself or watched over the shoulder as your best friend did, and you voted swipe right or a hard swipe left. That's right. She's the co-founder of Tinder and the founder of Bumble. Before she was busy revolutionizing our love lives, she majored in international studies. Between our previous slides and this one, it's clear that you can be extremely successful with pretty much any academic background. Your major won't necessarily lead to your career, and there are a ton of options. So, how do you narrow that down? The first step is getting to know yourself. We usually talk about this in terms of getting to know your interests, values, and abilities or skills. What sounds interesting to you? What do you have a particular aptitude for? Do these align? Where would you like to make an impact, and what kind of impact do you value? What are you willing to sacrifice? There's a strong importance to being interested in the classes you're attending. Think about it. We've all had classes that we had to go to, and we've all had some that we were excited to take. The goal at university is to maximize the classes you're excited to attend by paying attention to your interests, values, and abilities. Let's come back to general education. We mentioned it earlier, and we're talking about it again now because it's also an opportunity to get to know yourself. You can use your general education requirements to explore topics of interest, academic areas that were not available in high school, a career that you are exploring, or even a hobby you'd like to develop. General education can be related to your career interests. Maybe you're thinking you're going to be a business person. In that case, let's think of what's going to be relevant from some of the gen ed areas, starting with fine arts. Maybe you take Theater 1033, acting for non-majors. Chances are, you won't be performing in a theater, but as a business person, the boardroom becomes your stage. If we look at the list of science options, we find Entrepreneurship 1020, Entrepreneurship and the Startup Method. What if you applied the scientific method of hypotheses and outcomes to startups? The most popular humanities class is Classical Civilizations 1550, Classical Mythology. For prospective business people, there's a lot to be learned of human behavior and motivation from myths and folktales. Let's look at this from a different angle now. Perhaps general education is related to your values, and you highly value self-reliance, environmental change, and sustainability. You might decide to take Environmental Studies 3280, Organic Gardening, as an applied science course so you can learn how to grow your own food organically. Maybe for your social and behavioral science, you take Anthropology 2400, Climate Change and Lost Cities, or Environmental Studies 2100, Intro to Environment and Sustainability. You can also narrow things down by looking at overarching themes, which might be connected to your values and interests. Once you have a theme of interest, the next question is, what angle do I want to approach this from? Different subject matters can give a different lens to the same issue or the same theme. Hit pause and take a screenshot so you can really look at these. As you get to know yourself, you also need to know your resources. Academic advisors can be excellent resources for exploration, both our team in the Academic Advising Center and the individual departmental advisors. You can make an appointment with a general advisor or a departmental advisor using appointments.utah.edu. Majors.utah.edu will connect you to a valuable exploration resource, the Quick Look page. If you open another tab now and type in majors.utah.edu, then scroll down a bit to click on Majors, this will open the Quick Look page with just a filter of majors. You'll find more filter options at the top, by college, by interest, etc. You can also research minors and certificates, any programs at the U that can be granted on your final transcript. Each page has a short description of the program as well as suggested classes to try it out and information on the student experience and career options. Continuing with resources, an unbeatable resource is simply the class schedule. The sidebar of this slide has the steps to see the class schedule through CIS. You can also access it from the main utah.edu website by clicking Academics and Catalogs, Schedules, and Calendars. Once you choose the semester you want to view, in this case fall 2020, you can filter by gen ed and bachelor degree requirements. Once you've filtered to the list of classes that fills a specific gen ed, just look for the most interesting and fun-sounding class. Okay, we've reviewed a lot of information since we started, so we're going to recap and summarize some of what we've discussed, and specifically cover this question. What does exploration look like as a first-year student? There are a lot of ways to explore and a lot of resources for you. We talked about housing. Think about your potential living learning community or even just the people you'll meet over the next year as having different experiences and things to share. You can always speak with an academic advisor. Major exploration is something the Academic Advising Center specializes in, and each advisor who works in a department can tell you the most about their programs for deeper exploration. You can meet with an academic advisor at any point and as many times as you want. You'll be required to meet with an advisor at least once in your first semester. Continuing down the list of exploration opportunities, there's general education and other classes, learning communities like Block U and LEAP, clubs and events held by the Academic Advising Center, and colleges or departments. Don't forget about adding classes simply to explore, too. Specifically, UGS 1050 is a one-credit class titled Major Exploration, and it's exactly what that sounds like. So how does all of this turn into an actual schedule? Let's go back to our gelato analogy. Math and writing are going to be your cone. They're the foundation that you start to build on. Ideally, it's best to take math and writing in your first semester, or at least your first year, because they provide skills that you'll utilize in the rest of your courses. Your sample flavors are like your gen ed and exploratory classes as you test your interests. You might go for one scoop or one major, or you might have two and eventually declare a double major or a minor. And last, maybe you add another minor or certificate like the sprinkle on top, just meant to add a little complexity to the overall treat. The inside scoop is that you're in a great spot. You'll start with your foundation, math and writing. You'll sample some different interests with general education, and you're well on your way to finding the right major for you. The next couple slides are for visual learners. I know I like to see things written out. This is a sample of a first semester exploring schedule. Grab your phone and take a picture, or pause and take a screenshot to save this. The goal is to register for 12 to 15 credit hours, and that will likely mean some combination of this. When you have your individual advising appointment, your advisor will help you determine exactly what to take. In the meantime, look into these classes and look into the well-being classes too. A lot of us do better when we have a little exercise or time outdoors. PRTL and PRTW stand for Parks, Recreation, and Tourism, Land and Water, and those classes are short-term activity-based, like going backpacking or kayaking. It's a great way to experience Utah if you're a beginner outdoors person, and a great way to meet others, even if you're more experienced. There are multiple levels for each class, so you can continue as you improve. ESSF is Exercise, Sport Science, and Fitness, and these are scheduled like regular courses, but they're fitness and activity-based. Ever fancy yourself a fencer? You can take fencing for credit. You can even do ping pong, bowling, racquetball, or gymnastics. Or, if you're a bit slower paced, there are lots of yoga classes too. We're approaching the end of this presentation, so we've created a timeline of what's next just to help organize a plan. At this point, you should have registered for or even completed your orientation Canvas modules. Your next task, and we'll break this down in the next slide, is to meet with an academic advisor for course planning. Once you've spoken with an advisor, you can register for classes. Speaking of your advisor, in the first semester, you'll have your mandatory first-year advising appointment. We'll check in and see how things are going and help you plan a schedule for spring 2021. Last, exploring really is for everyone. Right now, your major is either listed as undeclared or pre-major, pre-biology, pre-social work, etc. You should know a pre-major is not a contract. It's just raising your hand to say, I'm interested. You can always change it later. If you're trying to make your academic advising appointment and you don't know exactly who to make it with, don't worry about your major status. Whether you're listed as a pre-major or undeclared, it's no problem. If you're trying to choose between two programs, make an appointment with the advisor in those areas. Speaking directly to a major advisor can be a great way to gain information to make a decision. If you're truly in a place of exploration, though, we are really happy you found us. If you haven't already, be sure to make an appointment with an advisor in the Academic Advising Center to complete your orientation requirements and register for fall classes. If you're asking, okay, so what do I do now? Here's a few notes. Complete those orientation Canvas modules. Confirm you've made an appointment with an academic advisor and set a reminder for the day and time. You definitely don't want to forget and miss your advising appointment. After advising, get registered for those classes and use your resources like majors.utah.edu. Just don't forget to treat yourself with some gelato or sorbetto. Thanks for sticking with us in this presentation. We're thrilled you made it to the end. Remember, you have an academic home here on campus. The Academic Advising Center specializes in working with exploring students, and we're excited to help you determine your path.